When I was a kid, living in the multilateral developed nation of socialist Romania, I didn't have any comic books. No superheroes, no Batman, no Superman, no Hulk, no American movies, no Star Wars. But what I did have were fables that every parent read to their kids when they were young. And these fables, all of them, contained nuggets of wisdom, which were passed on by our ancestors, the people that initially created these fables and then passed them off to the next generation. And most of the time, the parents wouldn't even explain why that nugget of wisdom was. It was up for the child to figure themselves out. It was up for the kids to think about it. And this is what got your brain to develop. Like, you would think about the stuff you just read, and you try to figure out like what wisdom was being passed there. And in the case of Snow White, I managed to figure this out when I was 5. That the wisdom was telling you, the reader, that vanity is not a good thing. That being obsessed with things like beauty and trying to be number one at it at the expense of hurting other people is wrong. I mean, think about it. The evil queen had everything. She had an entire kingdom to run. She was already the second most beautiful person in the land. She didn't need anything. She could just focus on ruling and trying to improve the life of her subjects, but instead, she has this ridiculous obsession with murdering the most beautiful person in the land so that she can become the most beautiful. And it's because of this obsession that she ends up dying in the end of the story. So, as a kid, I figured this out. The moral of the story was that vanity is wrong, but I guess now you have the art critics from California, which instead of criticizing the fact that there is a huge homelessness issue in California, or criticizing the fact that there is immense wealth disparity in California, despite the fact that it's a blue state, and you'd think like the Democrats should be focused on reducing wealth disparity and reducing the homelessness problem. No, they're worried about the fact that in Disneyland, the new attraction, they're focusing on the iconic kiss from Snow White. And that's why they're freaking out, right? Because I guess like the kiss is indoctrinating little kids into rape culture. And the reason you have like a high number of rapes in California, a blue state, is because little kids have watched Snow White when they grew up, right? So I guess the happy ending of the story, the social justice expansion pack, the social justice DLC for the Snow White end, would be the prince arrives and says, gosh darn it, I know I can save her, I can bring her back to life, but unfortunately I can't get consent out of her, so c'est la vie. And the prince turns around, walks away, and the evil queen gets to win. Like, the evil queen manages to have a happy ending, a happy ever after. You know, she assassinated the most beautiful person in the land, and now she is on the throne. What would the moral of the story be then? Like, what knowledge should I get? That vanity is great. That if you're not number one, make sure you cancel the person that's number one so that you can climb the ladder, not because of merit. No. But because you deserve it. Yeah, you know, like that is a social justice type of story, isn't it? Vanity is great. Yeah, it reminds me on Twitter when you see people that call themselves beautiful and want other people to acknowledge that. And if you don't acknowledge that they're beautiful, then you're a problem. Yeah, I guess, like, yeah, that would be the social justice version of Snow White. Beautiful story, what can I say? You know, it also speaks a lot on the concept of beauty, if I think about Snow White. I mean, yeah, sure, the queen was the second most beautiful person in the land, but that was like an exterior type of beauty. Inside, she was very ugly. Like, her vanity made her a monster. It made her a very ugly person because she was vain. And meanwhile, Snow White, she had an inner beauty as well. It wasn't just the exterior beauty. And now that I think about it, yeah, again, like very social justicey vibes. No wonder they're rooting for the evil queen. This also reminds me of another sarcastic story that a lot of people believed at the time. I believe it was in 2016. The idea that a lifeguard managed to save a woman from drowning, and he gave her mouth to mouth in order to resuscitate her. However, what ends up happening is that the woman was a feminist, and as she wakes up, she sues the lifeguard for touching her without consent. I guess like that, you know, like this is exactly what they think when they look at this. So you're telling me that if you're bothered by the kiss that the prince gave to Snow White, that you should also be bothered by every single lifeguard. The way I viewed the kiss at the age of 5 was that it was a kiss of innocence, because I didn't even knew that kisses can be sexual. Like at the age of 5, for me, kisses were the epitome of affection. It's what a mother does to a child. So when I saw the prince kissing Snow White, I didn't really think much about it. It was just, yeah, he is sad of the loss. And it wasn't even like a vulgar kiss. Like, he didn't go like... Yeah, it was like more like... I don't know if you guys have this tradition, but we have it in Romania. The kissing of the corpse at the funeral. I know it sounds gross, but it's not. Like, you know, when your grandmother dies and she's in the coffin, you know, people just kiss the forehead and they do a cross. You don't have to, but it's like the final kiss, you know, the kiss goodbye type of thing. I guess the social justice activists, if grandma wakes up, like, she would have been violated by all those people that kissed her, right? It would have been an atrocious act. Like, when I went to my grandmother's funeral, God rest her soul, and then I peck kissed her forehead, I was actually doing the violation because I didn't ask for consent. How is it different than Snow White? Like, the prince didn't know that the kiss would wake her, but it was the kiss of true love, which has magic and meaning and blah, blah, blah. And by the way, not to mention, like, the kiss of true love was very progressive for its time, if you think about it. Like, the kiss of true love was actually a feminist talking point. Because in the past, people weren't really married for true love. Like, I'm telling you how my grandmother told me that people would marry in her village. It was mostly marry for wealth, like marry for land. It was very strategic. Like, you would have usually like the old woman of the family, and she would be the one doing the marriages and the alliances and all of that. It's not just like the nobles that did it, but think about it. Like, you're in a rural area and you're a family that has 5 daughters. Like, if you strategically marry them, you're going to get a lot of wealth in the family. It was an actual thing, right? So true love was revolutionary. It's like, what do you mean marry for love? Are you insane? And these arranged marriages, by the way, weren't necessarily done when the woman was young or anything like that. No, the parents would constantly nag the person, like, no, you need to marry this. And they did the same for men as well. Like, you need to marry this woman because she's wealthy. It's like, I don't like her. She's ugly. It's like, I don't care. You don't like her. She's wealthy. She's going to give you a good lifestyle. And by the way, like, in a society where you have famines and you have war and disease and pestilence, you get a different mindset and outlook on that. Because right now we take a lot for granted, and it's like, oh, how could people in the past think this way? Yeah, but people in the past were like, look, if she's wealthy, you're not going to face famine, you're not going to face disease. Like, so anyway, it's a little bit more difficult of a conversation. But the critics from California, you know, instead of criticizing the homelessness, as I said before, instead of criticizing the wealth disparity, they're criticizing the fact that they didn't revamp the story, right? They should revamp the story to remove the kiss. And I'm thinking it's like, this is exactly the problem with Disney. Like, they are revamping a lot of stories recently. Like, they revamped Mulan and made it an absolute joke. Like, even people from China don't like it, and they should, because, you know, it's like, hey, it's part of your culture being represented there. And they're like, ugh, that's not our culture. What is that Western baizu filth? Instead of having, like, Mulan just be another soldier over there, you know, like she was in the cartoon, and you can actually make a connection with her as a human being, because it's like, yeah, she must be scared, but, you know, she manages to overcome her fears in order to fight off the Huns. And there's that also beautiful song, you know, like when all of the soldiers are singing A Girl Worth Fighting For, and they're thinking like they're going to have like a beautiful wife, and it's like, yeah, that's the girl worth fighting for. And the song gets abruptly ended as one of them finds a doll that's half burned from a child, which symbolizes the death of innocence. Like a little girl was murdered by the Huns, and that's the girl we're fighting for. Like that is so powerful. That is so emotional. And the current Disney of today is incapable of creating such strong emotions that are very, very subtle. Just ingrained right there in the story. And then, like now they're, because now all their resources, instead of like hiring good writers and creative people, they're hiring drones that just do what they're told. And their resources are now focused. It's like, oh yeah, the kiss is problematic. Can we remove that? Because it would upset It's very similar to what the Christians did when they got a hold of Roman statues. They didn't like it, so they had to chisel leaves, and they had to dress up the statues in order to cover their nudity and whatnot. It's literally the same thing. Like the Christians, especially in the early medieval time, they couldn't create the same quality of art that the Greeks and the Romans did. So they were creating, works of art that were more spiritual. It was more according to their beliefs. And this goes for hundreds of years only when you have Renaissance, and then you see very beautiful works of art, beautiful works of music, just fantastic sculptures and whatnot. And it's the same thing happening again, I think. It's the exact same thing. Like you have the stories of the past that were magical because of reasons that the current people can't even articulate. And they have to be ashamed of the stories of the past. Like, what do you mean Mulan cannot fight 3 Huns by herself? What do you mean Snow White gets kissed without her consent? And they have to remove these parts or change them in order to create something more akin to what they want in the present. But unfortunately, it doesn't add up. Like, it's not the same. And they can't create new things. Even it's sad. It's very sad. So that's my commentary based on this. Let me know what you guys think, though, and I'll see you in the comment sections. Take care.